What's going on, Packer fans? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I have a slightly bigger smile on my face today because we are one day away from Packers football. Happy Saturday. I hope your weekend's going well so far. If you're just joining me, my name is Andy Herman. You can always follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Have a fun episode lined up for you today. Going to be going through a mailbag. I got some really great questions in from Twitter that I can't wait to get to. So we'll get to that in just a second. But before we get there, we did have some injury updates from Friday, which are certainly worth mentioning. First and foremost, Za'Darius Smith does not practice on Friday, which is usually a death sentence for your odds of playing on Sunday. However, Matt LaFleur did say that they're going to give Za'Darius Smith up until Sunday to play in the game. I would be shocked. I would be beyond shocked in Jacksonville on the road in extremely hot weather after he didn't practice basically all off season, to then have a couple practices where he was extremely limited in team activities, and then misses Friday's practice, to then just going out and playing against Jacksonville. I would be insanely surprised. To me, this feels like, hey, Saints, we're going to give you the idea that Za'Darius Smith might play just so you have to still game plan against him. But there's no chance he's going to play. Now, I don't know that, right? Like, we'll see. And maybe there's an outside chance that he plays and, they use him, 15, 20 snaps primarily on pass rushing downs would be my guess if they did actually play him. But I would be very surprised. I think they probably give him an extra week. And remember, next game is on Monday night against the Lions, so that gives him even an extra day there to prepare for that game. I just think it makes so much more sense, especially they said he was hurting, and they didn't say he re-aggravated anything or anything like that, but they said he's still hurting. It just, the writing seems very clearly on the wall that Za'Darius Smith is not going to practice. Now, as far as injury designations go, Za'Darius was listed as questionable, as was Tyler Lancaster. Vernon Scott was listed as out. Now, overall, you look at the injury report, Lancaster, Za'Darius, Vernon Scott, obviously Za'Darius is a huge loss, but you have to remember too, David Bakhtiari not in this game. You don't see him on the injury report because he's on the PUP list, but that's still a fairly significant injury that Green Bay's, it goes without saying, right? It's a very significant injury that Green Bay is going to be without him. So you're likely missing David Bakhtiari and Za'Darius Smith. That is a huge portion of your payroll. That is a huge chunk of your star players on your team that Green Bay will be without this game. Now, New Orleans, certainly without Michael Thomas. Bradley Roby, who they just traded for, is suspended for the game. They also listed Ken Crowley and Traquan Smith as out. Ken Crowley and Traquan Smith may not exactly be David Bakhtiari or Za'Darius Smith, but these are not insignificant injuries for the Saints. Ken Crowley probably was going to be one of their top three corners. In fact, I would be pretty sure that he was going to be one of their top three corners on Sunday against Green Bay. Traquan Smith certainly would have been one of their top three receivers, even with Michael Thomas. Probably would have been in their top two without Michael Thomas. So they're missing two of their top three wide receivers in this game as well. And even though Michael Thomas not on the injury list, again, he will be out this game. And then James Hurst, their offensive lineman, is listed as questionable as well. So that will also be worth monitoring. So both of these teams overall, I would say fairly healthy, but still some big names, including Michael Thomas, David Bakhtiari, and potentially Za'Darius Smith, that do not play in this game. Let's see here. So I think that kind of does it for injury updates and things like that. We'll obviously get to a game preview tomorrow on Sunday's edition of the podcast, but let's jump right into some fan questions because we had some really good ones, and I think this is going to be a very fun episode. So let's start with Matt Pickett's question. He said, which game are you most looking forward to and why? And this one for me is very simple, and I mentioned this one the other day. I think there's three games that I'm insanely looking forward to this season. One of those is Packers Chiefs, of course. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, if everything goes correctly, that should be an absolute barn burner of a game. Packers Browns on Christmas Day. I really enjoy what the Browns have done and put together. I'm a big Baker Mayfield stan, so I think that game on Christmas is going to be a ton of fun at Lambeau Field as well. However, there's no game I'm looking forward to more than Packers Lions on Monday Night Football. Fans back in Lambeau. I will be in the stands at that game. I cannot wait for that game to kick off. It's going to be a ton of fun. And again, if you've never been to an opening, first game of the season at Lambeau, it is by far and away the closest that it gets to a playoff atmosphere. It's better if it's in week one to really kick off the season, but certainly the home opener, no matter what, is fun. But it is truly like a playoff atmosphere more often than not. The weather in September, like Green Bay weather in September, is phenomenal. It is warm. Yeah, there's somehow still this crisp in the air, and it's phenomenal. Then you get there and you smell the brats and the tailgating. The sound is incredible. Like it's a sensory overload in all the best possible ways. And I can't wait for September football, Lambeau Field, Packers Lions. I know it's not, this marquee matchup. The Lions aren't expected to be a great team this year by any means, but that should be, if things go according to plan, a fun game, and one that, again, with fans back in the stands, I think is going to be an emotionally fun, just everything. I think that's bar none the game that I'm most looking forward to this season. All right, Jeremy Staring says, who breaks out this year on offense and on defense? I think it's an interesting question. I think MVS on offense is certainly one of the players that I think a lot of people are looking at as a potential breakout candidate for this team as a whole. He's definitely going to have my eye as well. I think offensively, even Robert Tonyan, right, could take a step. I think Josiah DeGuara is somebody that is worth keeping an eye on. AJ Dillon, should Aaron Jones have any injury issues at all, AJ Dillon could have a massive season as one of the key backs. But I'm actually going to go with Royce Newman here. I've really liked what I've seen out of him, both on his college tape as well as in preseason and in training camp so far. I think he has the opportunity to be a very good offensive lineman. I'm not saying he's going to be necessarily great from day one, but I think he can be good. And as a rookie, that's saying something. And I think he has the opportunity to really lock down that right guard position, both now and into the future. And I think that means a lot for this offense. So I'm going to say Royce Newman on offense. On defense, I really want to say Kingsley Keke, but I don't know. I'm not totally there yet. I'm going to say Chris Barnes. I still think that he has some untapped potential. He looks quicker, and I think playing next to Devondre Campbell is going to help him. I think Kenny Clark being fully healthy, at least for now, and playing behind him, and I think some added depth on that defensive line is going to help him. And I think, this Joe Barry defense has been good to linebackers, and I think Joe Barry is a very smart linebacker coach, even though he's the defensive coordinator. I think Chris Barnes is going to be in for some level of jump this upcoming season. D. Bess asks, could Green Bay just be a stepping stone for Matt LaFleur? I don't see that in any capacity. I don't see I'm sure Matt LaFleur would love some more say in personnel decisions, but I think Matt LaFleur is wise enough to realize that it's best if you have a GM making those decisions and you have a coach making all the coaching decisions. I don't think there's any chance he would leave for any other coaching position. I still think Green Bay is the destination for coaches in the NFL. You tend to get a little bit more longevity. I think you have a nice media market. I think, you have a fan base that is going to sell out your home stadium. You have a great team structure. No, in no way, shape, or form do I see Matt LaFleur going anywhere, and I would expect a very hefty and long extension for Matt LaFleur sometime in the near future. Kirian Jakuti says, how did you become a Packer fan, and will the defense be better under Joe Barry? As far as how I became a Packer fan, grew up in Green Bay, about 10 to 12 minutes, probably about 12 minutes away from Lambeau Field. My parents had season tickets. I went to my first game, I think around age 8 or 9. My first game was Brett Favre's entrance against the Cincinnati Bengals, Kittrick Taylor in my end zone. I know I've told this story before, but that is how, you're baptized into Green Bay Packer fandom at that point. So that's the easy answer to that question. And then will the defense be better under Joe Barry? That's the $1 million question. I think he's going to bring a lot of energy. I think he brings a few more concepts that I think are going to be conservative but aggressive at the same time. I think how they stack their defense and make it a little bit more disguisable is going to hopefully give some confusion to opposing offenses and allow hopefully those defenders a little bit more opportunity to make a play up front, which hopefully results in some more turnovers, either strip sacks or interceptions on the back end. I think it will be better. I don't think it's going to be exponentially better just because of Joe Barry, but I do think it's going to be better. Not Ryan asks, how loud are the moans going to be when Joe Barry's defense gives up 3 touchdowns and 100 plus yards to Alvin Kamara? Ben Fennell has talked about this for a while, and it's something that I think people need to be more cognizant of. There are very, very few just dominant defenses anymore. Offenses are ahead. All right. Offenses are very much ahead. Look at that Cowboys Buccaneers game. The Buccaneers are a very good defense, and the Cowboys put up a ton of yards, should have had more points, still put up a lot of points. And again, that's I think what'll end up being one of the better defenses in football this season in Tampa Bay. It is not easy to play defense. Offenses have the advantage. Defenses can't hit receivers over the middle. They can't hit the quarterback. There's a level of what defenses can do that's different than it was, a decade plus ago. And I think offenses have the major advantage. I think, again, receivers being able to play over the middle without having to worry about their lives definitely changes things. Again, quarterbacks having a bit more time and to get, again, a little bit more courage to be able to run around and do some things because, again, they're a little bit more protected, I think changes some things. I just think you see a lot of these dynamic playmakers, in high school and college end up playing offensive positions. And I just think right now offenses are ahead. I think we've got great quarterbacks in this league, and it's really difficult to play defense. I think you need to adjust your expectations accordingly and just know that going in, you're going to give up 17 to 20 points in the vast majority of games. So until they get to 20, don't, start complaining about your defense. Now when they go over 20 and it starts getting, really in the, high 20s, early 30s or above that, then you can start complaining. But until then, you have to give some leeway because right now offenses are well ahead. I don't think the Saints are going to put up quite that much, and I think they're going to be able to really focus in on Alvin Kamara with no Michael Thomas, but we'll see. And again, I think it's time to adjust defensive expectations. Troy Fox says, what wide receivers are on the team this year that will be on the team next year? I'm going to say Amari Rodgers, Malik Taylor, Allen Lazard. Those are the easy ones. Rodgers is under contract. Taylor and Allen Lazard are both under team control. I believe Taylor will be an exclusive rights free agent. Lazard will be a restricted free agent. So I think those three will be back. I hope like heck Davante Adams is back, but if I'm a betting man today, I'm going to say that he's not. I still think there's a 50-50 chance that he is. I still think Green Bay is going to go through a fairly significant rebuild next year, which would lead me to believe that maybe Davante's not back. But I do think that maybe they bring back an MVS because they're going to know that Jordan Love does need some weapons, and at least having a player like MVS should help if, in fact, Jordan Love is the quarterback next year. And heck, if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, then maybe that increases the odds of Davante, but it could actually be productive because now they have to pay Rodgers too, so that could leave even less money for Davante Adams. So it'll be interesting, but I'll say as of today, Amari, Malik Taylor, Allen Lazard, and MVS. Sheev Luthra says, which of the NFC Championship games would I want to do over on? To me, it's a fairly easy answer, even though there's some definite heartbreakers in there. Giants, Packers, Ice Bowl 2, NFC Championship at Lambeau Field. That was my favorite all-time Packers team. It just was. I love that team. The expectations weren't high going into the season. They go 13-3. Even that one loss at the end of the year was Chicago, where it was like a 1,000,000-mile-an-hour winds. It wasn't even real football. So to me, they were basically like 13-2 on the season. And then they have that Seattle game. They go down 14-0. I'm at that Seahawks game. It's to this day probably the best game I've ever been at. They come roaring back and have just this magnificent playoff game in the snow. The Cowboys lose. They get the Giants at home. The winner's going to face the Patriots and Tom Brady. We're going to potentially get Brett Favre versus Tom Brady, Packers, Patriots. And, all the fans in Green Bay are sitting out in negative, 30-degree weather, whatever it was. Again, I'm at that game. If I could have any game back, it's that one. And I think, maybe the Packers lose to the Patriots, whatever. But I think that game would have been a ton of fun. And, I'll put it that way. Would have loved to see the Packers win against the Giants. Seahawks was probably a more heartbreaking loss. But like I said, I love that Packers team more than probably any other and would love to have that game back. George Scheibel asked the most disappointing Packer of all time. This is slightly before my time, like just a little bit before, but it has to be Tony Mandrich, right? Troy Aikman goes 1, Barry Sanders goes 3, Deion Sanders goes 4, Derek Thomas goes 5, 4 Hall of Famers, and in the middle of them at number 2, Tony Mandrich to the Packers. And that wasn't like, there was a lot of teams that wanted Tony Mandrich. That wasn't necessarily, just this awful, whatever. He was a massive disappointment. Obviously, the steroid use, everything like that, and there's just no two ways around it. Maybe it ends up working out best anyway because the Packers end up getting Brett Favre and winning the Super Bowl in '96, of course, but there's no two ways about it. Tony Mandrich, who they selected again over Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, and Derek Thomas, three, not just like Hall of Famers, but like some of the best Hall of Famers. That's a massive disappointment. Tiberius Grachus says Eric Stokes' floor, or wants to know Eric Stokes' floor and ceiling. I think the ceiling is somewhere around like a really good Sam Shields, and I think the floor is somewhere around Josh Jackson. I think he needs to work just on his overall coverage technique, and that's something that Josh Jackson was never able to do. Now, Stokes has much more raw ability and just athleticism than what Josh Jackson did, but I think if you don't learn how like the pure coverage technique, it's so hard to succeed at an NFL level. And no matter what talent you have, you're going to get beat with double moves, and you just have to be able to know how to be a cover guy. And I think Stokes is still learning that. So I think that's his floor. But I think maybe the ceiling's even higher. Actually, I'm going to say Darius Slay. I think there's a lot of Darius Slay comparisons in Slay's speed. I think actually that's a really good comp for Stokes, and I think he can get there. And I think, for those who might say Darius Slay, one of the best corners of the past decade. Last year was a little bit of a struggle towards the twilight of his career here, but I'm going to say that his ceiling is Darius Slay and his floor is a Josh Jackson. Dean Hansen says, will Rodgers play in the NFC North like Brett Favre if he ends up leaving for another team? I'm going to say no. I think he'll end up somewhere warm, probably on the West Coast. And I don't think he wants to play for Chicago, Minnesota, Detroit. I think he definitely still will respect his legacy with Packer fans, even if there's a falling out with the organization. Chris Grover asked which rookie will be most impactful. I think just by the fact that they're starting offensive linemen week one, at least we assume, for Josh Myers and Royce Newman, and both of them could be the starters for all 17 games plus playoffs. I think as rookies, good, bad, or indifferent, they're going to have a massive impact on how this offense plays. So most impactful, definitely Josh Myers and Royce Newman. Then we had a couple fun ones really quick. A couple friends of the show here. Matt Mamba starts by asking, who would I feel most confident I could beat in a game of air hockey? Crosby, Lazard, or Sullivan? I'm going to say Crosby. The other two, both Sullivan and Lazard, are literally trained on hand-eye coordination, which I feel like air hockey is based off of. Mason Crosby is more the feet, right? So, you're playing air hockey with your hands. I'm not super confident I could beat Mason Crosby, but if life depended on it and I had to go against either Crosby, Lazard, or Sullivan, I'm taking Mason Crosby and doing my best. Michelle Bruton asks if the Packers either had to have a quarterback with the arm of Aaron Jones and legs of Aaron Rodgers, or a running back with the arm of Aaron Jones and the legs of Aaron Rodgers, which would I have? So basically, either way, you have the arm of Aaron Jones, the legs of Aaron Rodgers. Definitely putting them at running back if I have that player. Rodgers has still got okay wheels. It's not going to be a total loss. Whereas if you put Aaron Jones at quarterback, with that arm, it's just not an ideal situation, right? So I'm definitely going to say that I would absolutely take that player at running back, and screw it, just pass all the time, right? You've got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback still in that situation because this player's playing running back, I'm assuming. So just throw the ball a ton and put that random player at running back. And then last but not least, Maggie Loney tries to trick me here and says, would I rather have the Packers never win a Super Bowl again or never eat pizza again? Now, Maggie, I take these very seriously. So one of the things I need to ask is once I make my decision, is my mind wiped that I had to make this decision? Because a big piece of this, and I probably choose giving up pizza no matter what, but if I'm choosing to give up the Packers winning a Super Bowl again, but my mind is wiped, so I don't know I made that choice. To me, the journey of thinking that the Packers can win a Super Bowl and that they're potentially in it and just watching them, is the journey's greater than the end for me. As soon as they win the Super Bowl, it's great, celebrate, whatever, but then you immediately start going to all right, what's going to happen next season, right? So if I could think that they're going to win the Super Bowl, even though I've made this deal with the devil that I get to eat pizza and they're never going to win a Super Bowl, maybe I would consider pizza, because giving up pizza doesn't guarantee me a Packers Super Bowl in this situation. Again, you can see I take these very seriously. It just means that they are still in the running for a Super Bowl, and they could easily go another 40 years without winning a Super Bowl, and that's like not that out of the realm of possibility. I think people forget just how insanely difficult these are to win. They have 2 of them with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre in 3 decades so far. They're probably due for some fairly crappy quarterback play at some point. So I think there's an argument to be made here with my pure love of pizza to take the pizza and give up the Packers Super Bowl if my mind was wiped. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of other foods that I like, and I could give up pizza and still really enjoy food. While there's other sports I like, nothing comes absolutely close to the Green Bay Packers and my love and passion for the Packers. So no chance am I giving up a chance for the Packers to win a Super Bowl. I will reluctantly give up pizza in this bizarro, awful question that you had to ask me, but I appreciate the question nonetheless, and Maggie Loney, you're the absolute best. So that is going to do it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I'll be right back here tomorrow with a game day preview, Packers Saints. Cannot wait. Make sure to check that out. Make sure to subscribe. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.